Talk, we would like to deal with the implementation of remote configuration, that is Firebase remote configuration in your Flutter application. So what is a remote configuration and why do we require? So with the help of a remote configuration implementation in your application, you can easily make changes in your app without any new release. For example, you have implemented few features in your application and you want to turn them on and off. So you need not make a new release for the same. So you can just log into your Firebase console and there you can turn on and off your features. It is not only helpful in features handling, but also you can control the text, images and whatever the things within your application without any release. That is, you need not release a new application. You can just turn on and off from the Firebase console, or you can just change the data in Firebase console and you can publish them, and within seconds you can see the change in your application. So now let's get started with this implementation. We need to add Firebase core and Firebase remote configuration dependencies in pubspec file here. And now let's get started with the coding and we will see what are all the things we need to do to take the advantage of the remote configuration in your Flutter application. So the first thing is we need to import material.dart and declare void main here. So within the void main you need to also initialize your Firebase to make use of remote configuration data within your application. So this void main is of a type asynchronous for this process to be done. So now widgets flutter binding dot ensure initialized, and now you need to initialize Firebase here. So make sure you add await here and Firebase dot initialize app. So you need to initialize before making use of Firebase services in your application. So now let's declare run app, and inside which I'm going to make use of a material app. So within this, try to define our configuration. So the first thing is title, and title I just want to specify like remote config for you to understand. And within the home, let's specify future builder here of type remote configuration. So here you need to import this one. So import library. So we have added the library in pubspec, so we are making use of it now. So now within this, let's specify future. So this is a method for remote configuration. So now let's add it like setup remote configuration. So this is a method for remote configuration. So making use of this particular method, we will try to fetch the information and we will return it so that we can use it in our class, and also add a builder. So build context and an asynchronous snapshot of type remote configuration. And now you need to return. So if snapshot has data, then you need to make use of this particular data. So now let's create a class home which will accept this particular data. So it will accept the remote configuration data snapshot dot required data, and if there is an error, that is if the snapshot has no data, then return a container, and you can just customize this container. So you can just add a child widget here, and within which you can just specify a text widget stating that no data available. So that's all. And here we don't have a home class now, and we don't have setup remote configuration method currently. So now let's try to declare a class home here, and which will extend an animated widget. So why we are making use of an animated widget? Because the animated widget will have a listener. So with the help of a listener, we can listen to the new changes, that is the new data coming to our application, and display the same onto the screen. So here, missing concrete implementation widget build. So now let's try to add those implementations too, and still there is some error, doesn't have a constructor. So now let's try to add the constructor too. So home, so we have specified here a snapshot, right? So the data which we are getting from the snapshot we are providing to our home class here. So we require that remote configuration. So yes, we are trying to fetch the information from the remote configuration here, and as we have said that we are trying to listen to the changes, so we are trying to listen to the remote configuration here. So now let's create a variable final which is a remote configuration, so that we can make use of this particular data within our class here. So now let's try to return a container. So instead of a container, let's return a scaffold, and inside which the first thing is like app bar. So let's specify an app bar here and add a title with the help of a text widget. So it's again just sample title. Here we are going to add like remote configuration, and there comes our body section here, so within which I'm going to consider a column here because we have multiple widgets to be handled. So I'm considering a column here. So within the children you need to specify the text widgets. So I'm making use of a text widget and an image widget here. So we will fetch the information from the Firebase, so that is our remote configuration, and we'll try to populate them onto the screen here. So we have got a text widget, and I'm going to make use of a image network. So here we will be expecting a string here, we will expect a URL here and some information over here. So this is our basic design, and yes, you can add few more text fields, so just to know the status and also the last updated time. So this is the basic things provided till now. So here you can see we have initialized the app, and we are trying to fetch the information, and we are trying to pass that to the class home here, and we have made a basic design here. So now let's get started with this particular method, setup remote configuration. So now try to create this function here. So I'm just going to add this at last to make it easy for us to read the code. So now let's try to make this to an asynchronous function here and add future, and this is of a type future of remote configuration because we are going to return the data which is a remote configuration data here. So let's specify final remote configuration equal to remote configuration dot instance. So here also we are making use of the remote configuration variable, but here we are trying to make use of this object and try to populate the information, and here we are trying to fetch the information. So let's add await and remote configuration dot fetch the data, and after fetching the data we need to activate the data here, and you can just return this remote configuration. You can also try to add a print statement here, and you can just test whether you are getting the information or not. So remote configuration dot so get string or boolean or anything, the type of information you are expecting. So let's try to add a get string here, and you need to specify the key here. That's okay. Till now we have seen the app level implementation, but how we need to configure our Firebase console to make use of the remote configuration service. So here this is our Firebase console here, and here we are inside the remote configuration. So if you're watching this tutorial for the first time on our channel and you don't have the basic knowledge regarding the Firebase console and configuration, so do follow this particular playlist. So there we have discussed the basic Firebase configurations and you can get a good knowledge on them. So there you can get started with the Firebase console configuration by creating a project that is for Android and iOS, and from there you have these services which we have seen a few in our previous tutorials, and now we are trying to see the remote configuration here. So when you tap for the first time on this remote configuration, you will get a get started button. So when you tap on that, then you will be getting this particular console here, and this analytics may not be appear for the first time. So here you have got a button like add parameters. So when you tap on this, you will get this particular window and where you need to specify the parameter. So in our normal applications we have an API, right? So the API will have a key and value. So here you need to specify the key name here, and here the value, and here the type. So string, number, boolean, JSON and everything. So in our coming tutorials we will try to see some more examples on this particular topic on remote configuration, and for now we are making use of a string data type here, and you can also specify some description for this and provide a default value here. So the default value is nothing but a value which is assigned to this particular key here. So now I have added two things here already. So this is an image parameter here. So I have specified image as a key and I have provided a URL for the value here, and this is of a type string here. And one more thing we have considered is a text. So here I have specified text as a key and I have added some sample description and value here, and this is also of a type string here. So now let us try to see the basic usage, and then we will try to add and edit these particular things to match your requirements. So here I'm considering this screen just like a basic screen in our application, which will have an image and a description of that particular image. We have added two keys, that is image and text, right? So here I'm going to specify text now, and this is just for a testing purpose. So this is, we are not using anywhere, just for a testing purpose to make you know that you are getting the information. Whenever you try to initialize the application, we are trying to run this particular function setup remote configuration, and here we are trying to fetch the information and we are returning it. And when you return this particular information, we are trying to make use of a snapshot here. So and there we are trying to pass this particular information to our class home, and within the class home we are holding that particular information here and trying to make use them in our widgets. So now let's try to add the image first. So remote configuration dot get string. So we are passing the URL in the string format. So I'm just fetching get string here, and inside which specify the image key. So here we have got the key to be image here, so the same I am specifying there. And now let's try to run this code and see the output once. So here you can see we have got the output here, and so this is to the top left. You can just customize it again. So here let's remove the debug banner for now, and also the image is getting to the top left, so let's wrap it to the center, and also let's add some padding here. So I'm going to add a padding like 30 on all sides, and now let's try to save the code and see the output. So it looks better now, and when you make a full run, then you can see the debug banner is also been removed, and here you can see we have got the text printed, a print statement, right? So with the help of which we are able to print the information to the console just for our testing purpose. And now let's try to provide the same text which you are seeing here into our text view. So remote configuration dot get string, and here you need to specify text and try to reload the code and see the output once. So here we have got our text printed below the image. Let's add a size box here. So with the help of a size box we can specify some height here. I'm going to specify 50, and here you will be able to observe the change. And also you can just add some styling for our text field here. So text style, and inside which you can just specify the font size. So I'm specifying font size to be 20, and below two text features we can just make use of remote configuration last fetch status. So you can get to know the status here dot to string, and below you can also try to see the last fetch time also. Here you can see, so based on the time zone, day, everything. So just I'm trying to get the overview, so I'm just trying to fetch the last fetch time to string here. And now let's try to run the code and see the output here. And here you can see remote configuration fetch status to be success. So we have got a success here. And when you try to make use of the API call, there also you will try to see the success status, right? So based on which you will proceed further. So in the same way we have got the status here, and when you can see these are the types of status we can fetch, like success, failure, throttle, and no fetch yet. So these are the things you can observe here. So in this way you can implement the remote configuration, but we have something to see here. So yes, this is our application and we have published to the Play Store or App Store, and we need to make some changes in this particular text field here, or we want to change the image here. So how we can change? So basically you need to make a new release to make the changes. So for example, images we mostly use from APIs or URLs only. You can just change the URL, and this again it's a server side task, and you need to make sure you follow all the steps again. So that is like testing, approvals, and everything, which may take some time, and sometimes you don't have that much time to spend to make changes in your application, and you want the change to be reflected as soon as possible, so that the users using your application will get the new data rather than the old data. And also the same with the text here, we mostly make use of the text provided within the application only. Whenever you want to make the change, so it's the same scenario again, you need to republish the application. So now let's try to add a refresh button here. You can just try to see a sample how you can avoid these things. So I am making use of a floating action button here. So let's specify an anonymous function for now. So this is an asynchronous function. So try, within the try and catch block we are going to specify this, so to avoid any exceptions. So add await dot remote configuration dot set configuration settings. So remote configuration settings here. So fetch timeout. So here we are going to specify the duration of minimum timeout. So in general way of API calling also you will be having some timeout, right? So here we are going to specify the timeout in terms of seconds, so 10 seconds, and minimum fetch interval. So for now I'm going to specify it as 0. So you can just customize these two things according to your application requirement again. And now you need to fetch these things. So fetch and activate them, just we did in the method previously. So here you can see we have fetch and activated. So in the same way you are trying to fetch and activate and populate the new data, and here we are trying to print the exception, and you can customize this particular block according to your requirement again. So based on the exception you can further make the app process, like you can retry, or you can wait for some time, or you can just move to the other screen. So you can handle those changes in this particular block. And now specify a child here, so using which you can add an icons dot a refresh icon you can add. let's try to run this code and see the output once. So here you have got a refresh button here, and when you tap on this, the new data will be published. So first of all, go back to our Firebase console here, and here I am trying to edit my image. So as I have said, when you are trying to change the image, you need to make a new publish, right? So you need to publish your application again. So here 230 is our current image, and I am making it to 232, and also I am changing the dimensions, like I want this to be 300. The width and height changes here, and now we are trying to save the information, and here you can see it is asking for us to publish the changes. So you can discard them or you can just publish the changes, and we have published the changes now. So here you can see the message and get back to our application, and when you tap on this particular button, so here you can see our new image is now loaded and also the text here. So now let's try to alter the text here. So I'm just removing all this. This is a new text, and save this, publish the changes, and come back and see the new changes here. So this is the new text, and here you can see the configuration status is success, and this is the time, current time, like here you can see 135 and here 135, 13 seconds, and when you try to refresh it, it's like 29 seconds now. So this is how quickly we can make use of the data from the remote configuration in our Flutter application. So this is it for this tutorial on the implementation of Firebase remote configuration in your Flutter application, and if you are having any queries in this implementation, do let me know in the comment section below, and the code for this tutorial is available in the description section below. So if you like this tutorial, do like, share and subscribe to our channel for more interesting content on Flutter.